In this video, we follow not just an individual, but a group of almost a dozen. And together, we face the challenge of the Isle's official servers. We plan to punch above our weight, survive against the fastest species, those who wait in trees, and worst of all, the hackers. Hackers will always exist, but recently, we've been in the darkest of times. If the developers and admins can't help us, we must help ourselves. Only the Isle's most loyal players will continue to walk this path, and for some, the cost is just too high. So sit back and let me immerse you in the Isle, because despite its flaws, it remains my favorite game, not just for its beauty, but its community too. At first, my life didn't start quite so as chaotically. I spawned into East Lake while the rest of my pack was in water access. But I wasn't alone. Someone had heard my calls and had joined me. As soon as I was fast enough, we set off on a journey. A journey in which I almost ran headfirst into some raptors. Thankfully, I was summoned back in the nick of time, and we weren't pursued. We snuck past them, and headed down across the bridge. We had been hearing dillos in the area for ages, raptors too, and knowing this field, I chose to go up into the hillside a bit more. I didn't really trust being wide out in the open. Despite being summoned multiple times, I stuck to my guns. I don't know why. Something like instinct that told me to stay up in the bushes. And moments later, my fears came true. Wicked was ambushed out in the field. And so, with a heavy heart, that was the last I saw of them. Upon my arrival to water access, I was greeted by a massive new family. I had found some food in the surrounding forest, and now it was time that we set out. The alarm was sounded, and we made our move. To be real, I almost never play on officials anymore. I used to, quite a bit. AU3 was something of a second home. I felt like I knew everyone who played on that server. But unfortunately, all the exploiters, the hackers, the mixpackers, they've really soured my taste. At least for officials. I took a huge break from the Isle, and only came back when I discovered Petites. That's where I play mostly. But I have to admit, there's something freeing about returning to officials now and then. All the extra mutations, the freedom to commit all sorts of violent atrocities. Cannibalize whoever you want. Mix pack with whoever you want. It's a disaster over there, but it can be somewhat entertaining. Luckily today, I was feeling a lot more confident, surrounded by other Pachys, creatures of my same species, gossiping in chat, and traveling side by side. I always find the game is more enjoyable when you're in a massive pack. But it can also make recording difficult, considering the chat is being constantly spammed with absolute nonsense. Oh, and shout out to Coffee Cats. All these Pachys were members watching her stream, and we all ended up together because of that. Seeing as there were so many of us, food was a hot commodity. Upon stumbling into the first diet in Highlands, it was immediately swarmed and then devoured. I was one of the smallest in the group, so I was unfortunately surrounded by big backs. But I had the foresight to bring my own snack, which is the giant fruit that you've seen me carrying around. We weren't alone in Highlands. There was a trike somewhere, a galley also somewhere. It was keeping its distance, which was a smart idea considering everyone was feeling the itch of chaos. We ran in with two calls all around, friendly, eager to make new friends. But they seemed very cautious, and perhaps for good reason. Admittedly, playing Pachy gives me the most chaotic vibes out of any of the roster. Every time I'm playing them, I just want to attack everything I see. But I wasn't the first to strike. No, that was someone else. We were very quickly making enemies. Not even a swooping pterodon is safe from the likes of the Pachy. I saw what was going to happen. I couldn't stop it, but I could at least get revenge. I told him off with a grumpy little 3-call, and broke his back for good measure. Though I will admit I'm not one for group violence, so maybe I have a few regrets for this. As an apology, myself and a few others gathered around her in a protective circle. Meanwhile, further down the beach, chaos was erupting. Apparently, these maniacs decided that 3 sub-dibbles were a likely target. Coffee had gotten herself into a pickle, but luckily, the others were there to help. Someone took a couple hits to distract, and I stood between them. It was definitely a moment of pack loyalty. The sight of these dibbles sneakily backing away while we healed was even more fuel to the fire. They were quite honestly acting like NPCs. Though they didn't have a crazy grasp on their abilities, they certainly knew how to punch back. Because they were in their sparring stance, any friendly fire immediately got them locked into a duel. This provided the perfect moment to go in for a hit. That was until someone said they saw a Kano. The fun was over after that. The pack immediately scattered and ran up the nearest rock formation. Together we stood on the top, strength in numbers, screaming to the hills. There was healing to be done, and conversations to be had. No moment AFK healing is boring when you have a whole pack behind you. And eventually, the Kanos made the decision to leave. Though they were outnumbered, a lot of us weren't fully grown, so they definitely could have had a chance. But luckily, today, no battle was fought. We were safe on our hill, and we didn't see the dibbles again, so we decided it was time to come down. And this is your friendly reminder to not take shortcuts on a cliff.
Huh?
The rest of us took the safe path, not wanting the same broken leg fate as our companion. Despite wanting to leave, no Pachy was going to be left behind. So we hung around, keeping watch, hoping that the Kanos had really left. And I found some meaningless task to occupy my mind. I decided it was time to scout. If my pack was going to hang back and heal, I was going to keep lookout. I could do it. I was brave. I would have fought all 3 of the Kanos if I had the chance. Probably would have died, but, I would have done it. And in the distance, I heard the giggle of a small, devilish creature. A Trudon. I charged. It was quite big, and I was still quite small. It definitely could have had a chance if it got the jump on me, but it made one fatal error, running head first into my head butt. I threw a little tantrum and squashed him into the earth, and then screamed on his corpse for good measure. Evil intentions satisfied, and broken legs healed. It was finally time we made our journey. With the upcoming changes to the map, I'm really gonna miss Highlands. I think it's beautiful how it is now. The giant hills, the fog, the drinking spots provide the perfect moments to escape, while also giving the opportunity to be caught if you're not paying enough attention. And especially this iconic canyon. And Raptor Cave. There are many things that I'll miss about Highlands. There was a small roadblock in the entrance, which immediately erupted into battle. Whoever was inside got bashed in the face, and immediately after emerging, they got their retaliation. Meanwhile, I was utterly confused, having no idea what just happened until I looked back at the footage. None of it stopped me from immediately trying to go inside. And the others filed in after me. Like ants returning to our burrow, we stood inside and screamed, our voices echoing around the cave and down the canyon. The squabblers had to heal, again, and I was happy to just chill out. The sun was setting, and once everyone was ready, we continued. But not all is peaceful. In the distance, I saw someone jump down from the trees. It could only be one creature. Herrera. I took the opportunity while they were earthbound to try and give them a whack on the tail, but unfortunately I missed. And I wasn't about to stick around to get jumped on. They were hungry. They must have been, because they took the risk to follow us on foot. And not sneakily either. They spammed their aggressive calls, trying to lure someone back. So I decided to wait for them to arrive, but someone had the same idea. I rushed back to help them, as a huge shadow fell upon the fighting dinosaurs. Many of the others had gone on ahead, but I was one to stay back and fight. I put a quick end to his career, and the other one met a very similar fate. We were easily victorious. As night approached, we ate some food, and looked around to realize that West Rail was quite devoid of literally anything, and thus, the trek continued. South Plains, usually a hotspot, was somewhat quiet. Actually, completely quiet. And soon we would find out why. But first, everyone was distracted by a little runner. He was tiny, harmless even, but you know Pachy's. Literally everyone turned and charged after the poor thing, screaming aggressive calls and trying to break his spine. It was brutal, but pretty fun. After a moment, I realized what I was doing, and stopped the chase to turn back. Maybe that was a bit of an overkill reaction, and that's when we heard it. The call of a full-grown Kano. He was close. Too close, in fact. He charged down the hill in our direction, calling, broadcasting, letting his intentions be clear. Bold move for a solo. I never thought he'd go for it. We were about to find out why he was so confident. Pyro immediately got bashed, but luckily dealt back damage of their own. Damage which was enough to break the Kano's back. Being body broken means you lose stam at double the original rate. It might even be more, I'm not sure. But either way, he was screwed. No stamina, and an army of angry Pachys. But somehow he was still feeling confident. Little did we know, this Kano's username was a jumble of random letters, and he had a trick up his sleeve. Right then, he somehow bit Coffee. How, you might ask? Range hacking. The scumbag was one of many, and he was using cheats to his advantage. There were corpses all around from all different species. I wonder what had been killing them all. This was why South Plains was empty. He immediately gave up on anything that resembled skill, and decided to just spin in circles, spamming his bite. And most of them would hit, regardless of the direction he was facing. He was also standing on a rock, so to reach him, we'd have to stand directly beside him and guarantee getting hit. We took up positions on either side of him. He wasn't going to get away. Plus, he had no stamina. Here, he hit me from absolutely miles away. But on the upside, he could only hit one of us at a time. Numbers were on our side. But with so many people crowded around a rock, fighting at once, friendly fire was bound to be a disaster. I stood back and watched as one of the Pachys got absolutely flattened by his teammate. And during him trying to stand up, he was killed. The moment the space cleared, I checked my health. It was time for me to pull my weight. I was still green, and so I went. I put in some damage, and then got out of dodge. And when I looked back, it was all over. The final blow was struck. A chorus of celebration erupted. We had done it. We had defeated the hacker. He thought he could ruin this game experience for us, make us quit, but we were still here, still fighting. And where was he? The loading screen. See you next time, loser. The lands weren't safe just yet. We couldn't rest. There were still predators about. Chaos to be handed out. A small scavenger were feasting on the rotten corpses. He would have been safe continuing on his mission, if not for the one call. So this is your reminder, if you're small and vulnerable, maybe stay quiet. By the time I arrived, the deed was already done. But while we were distracted, something was brewing. Up on the hilltops, one of our packmates had been slain. They had been resting, probably with a broken leg from the fight, and so had been left behind. And unfortunately, they didn't call out, and despite warning us in chat, no one had realized the gravity of the situation. They were also too far out of range for my replays to pick up any of the gruesome battle. Apparently the Kano was very fast, and had run circles around them, biting them just out of range, where they couldn't reach, couldn't fight back. And so they had met their fate, and in the distance I heard the confident calls of the little rat who had done the deed. I got in my battle stance, and with backup on either side, ran forward to confront the threat. I didn't expect him to be dealt with quite as quickly, but I had to say it was pretty awesome. We screamed on his corpse, teabagged him a little. It was what he deserved. I don't know what level of unemployed you have to be to spend your money on hacks that literally cost more than the actual game. Our poor soldier's corpse lay at the top of the hill. That marked 2 deaths. 2 lives taken by someone who had 0 skill and 0 patience. And in the distance, I heard it again. The ridiculous calls of the exact same Kano. I honestly don't know how he was spawning in the same spot over and over again. I wish I could do that when I was trying to meet up with my friends and I kept spawning on the wrong side of the map. After seeing how quickly he had been squashed the first time, I was feeling a lot more confident the second time. It was time to end this man's career again. It was quick and easy work. There was no honor in it, but we were still satisfied. Honestly, don't know what that little scrap's goal was, but, you know, we put an end to him. And by now it was getting late. So we decided we would confidently log out in the middle of an open field. And maybe spam our mating dances as everyone tried to fall asleep. You know what they say about the first to fall asleep at the sleepover. And I was the last to fall asleep. Okay, well, technically the second last. Or third? I don't know, but I wasn't the first. And that's my favorite thing about this game. Not the sleepover part, but the way you can group up with people you've never interacted with before, and perhaps won't ever interact with again. And yet you can build such loyalty, such teamwork, such purpose. And because of that, despite all the toxic people, the hackers, the babies, the flaws, I'll always come back to this survival experience. Because there's a lot more to it than just surviving.